Hey, you guys, it's Dr. G, and I'm so excited today to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, and that's chocolate. All right, so what are the health benefits of dark chocolate and cocoa? Well, believe it or not, there's been some actual research studies telling us that dark chocolate can be good for us. I found this article really interesting. I recently subscribed to something called consumerlab.com. And consumerlab.com is a company that's been around for more than a couple decades, and they go and they test all these different supplements, foods for purity, and they test them to see whether or not what they have in it is what they say they have in it. And it's really nice because they also give a breakdown of the different research articles and the evidence behind the different things they test. And interestingly, of course, dark chocolate and cocoa, the flavanols that are within them have been associated with potential benefits. And that is benefits for your blood flow, for your blood pressure, for cholesterol, for physical exercise performance, for cognition and memory, for wrinkles, and even blood sugar control. So these things are fascinating. And when we look through the different articles, one of the things that I was impressed by is the fact that blood flow is affected by the flavanols within cocoa. And I think that you'll find this study really interesting. A study looking at 100 healthy middle-aged men and women, and twice daily they drank a drink that was full of cocoa flavanols. Now, this study was done by the company that made the drink. Okay, so that you always have to be a little suspect when you see that. And they showed a clear, small but significant improvement in blood vessel endothelial function, and that is the lining within the blood vessels compared to a placebo. I like it that there's a placebo group here. It definitely makes the research stronger, and that placebo group had similar amounts of things like caffeine and theobromine, but it did not have the cocoa flavanols. And when they followed them, their blood pressure had significant reductions in both their top number on their blood pressure and their bottom number on their blood pressure, improvement in their cholesterol, their LDL came down and their HDL went up, which is what we like to see. And the researchers, of course, they want to extrapolate that data. And if you put that out over a 10-year period with that much lowering, it's similar to having better controlled blood pressure. And they projected a 10-year 30% reduction in risk of death from cardiovascular disease. Of course, they're going to say something like that, but really, this is pretty amazing. And there's also some studies showing that after eating some chocolate, you can walk a little further if you have peripheral arterial disease. And that's when you have peripheral arterial disease, people don't get enough blood flow down to their legs and their legs hurt when they walk. And that study, small study, but it showed that people could go 15% farther after having a high flavanol chocolate. And so, well, let's face it, most of these studies are done by the chocolate makers, right? You'd like to think there's a lot of well-meaning doctors who just want to see if chocolate helps, but most of them are done by the cocoa companies. Another important thing to point out is that not all chocolate is created equal in terms of amount of flavonoids. The Dutch alkali processing takes out a lot of the flavonoids, and at consumerlab.com you can find out which ones have the highest amount of flavonoids. And the other thing that was kind of shocking to me is that cadmium is a thing. And so sometimes I'll do testing for people where we look at heavy metals in the urine, and we're finding, well, look, there's a high level of cadmium, which is considered toxic. And like, where did that come from? Come to find that this is probably coming from foods, and it may be coming from supplements as well. And so that's why it's nice to, having just discovered consumerlab.com, I want to suggest it to you. It's not very expensive. I think I paid $47 for a whole year subscription, and I can look up, like, for instance, this morning I typed in olive oil to see, and it checks out all these different oils, which oils are going rancid before people buy them, the taste, the percentage of polyphenols in them. So that's another plug for consumerlab.com. But in going to consumerlab.com, I was curious about the chocolate question and come to find that some of the different kinds of chocolate are much higher in cadmium than others. And so I'll put a link to consumerlab.com for you guys. But I think that the jury is in on flavanols, and that is, they're good for you. So I think the next question is, how much is really good for you for different kinds of benefits? In general, for cardiovascular health, you're looking at 200 to 900. That's a pretty big range, milligrams per day in order to get that cardiovascular benefit. Now, the other thing I haven't even mentioned is it improves blood sugar control. This has been shown in quite a few small studies with some significant effects. And for blood sugar improvement, you want to get 200 to 600 milligrams. And the way I'm telling you this is from that's what they used in the studies. And then finally, did I mention that it helps with word finding, right? That cognition can be improved by flavanols. Probably this has to do with that improvement in vascular function, right? If you're getting better blood flow, your brain's going to be able to work better. So for cognitive function, it's a higher dose that's suggested, around 500 to 900 milligrams per day. And then the final little piece there is, what about wrinkles? Oh my gosh, well, flavanols can improve wrinkles. So there you're thinking about around 320 milligrams per day. The small studies suggesting that. But to drive this other point home, this is that nutrition is where it's at in terms of you getting the best health possible, to eat things that are have high nutritional content, so that you can get these benefits through your food. And I think that that's colorful fruits and vegetables. Focus on the berries. Berries are one of your best sources, and the more wild and raw it is, the better, right? Less processing, it's going to be better. And every time you're eating a processed food, what you're doing is you're putting empty calories in that are not going to have these benefits of anti-aging and making your system work better. Instead, they just prevent you from being able to consume that calories for something healthy. So just, another plug for fruits and veggies. Okay. All right, you guys, so I'll put a link to consumerlabs.com, and I hope this has been helpful to you, and have an awesome day. See ya.